going on, guys? I don't know what overcame me past couple days, but I have recently been getting my hopes and dreams back up for completing the project car my fiance and I have had in our yard for quite a long time, and that project is a 1978 VW camper bus. It does have the lift top full camper setup. As you can see, needs quite a bit of work, pretty much a full restoration. So a bit of background on this bus. My fiance and I, we had hopes and dreams of getting it up and running about 3 years ago. We actually did get it running on an external fuel source, just a gas tank that we had connected to the fuel line, had to replace the fuel pump. It started, it actually got out of park and went into gear. We got it moving a little bit. It would have intermittent stalls, you know, it just wasn't running clean. And then eventually, after a couple turns, we would try to start it and we would hear kind of a ticking sound. Given the condition of this thing, we didn't really want to push its limits, and we kind of just figured if we're going to restore the whole thing, the engine's got to be rebuilt too. So not really sure order of operations, but if it's all got to come out, it doesn't really matter. So I'm starting with the heart. I'm starting with the engine. I read somewhere online, actually I've only seen one video with the exact setup I have, which is the T2. This is a 78, has the fuel injected engine and automatic transmission. I've only seen I think one other setup, and he had a manual transmission online. In that video he removed the engine and transmission all in one shot, and I'm thinking it's probably a similar setup, so I should probably just remove both as well. So today I've got the bus jacked up in anticipation for lowering the transmission and the engine. So yeah, my goal is to videotape this whole process as much as I can, hopefully help someone else out along the way. It's going to be a long process. It could be here for half a year, a couple of years, I don't know. You know, it's kind of one of those things that we'll just chip away at when we have time. But yeah, as you can see, it's a project. We've actually had people come and knock on the door asking to buy it from the yard, and we've always said no, thinking that we'll get to it one day, and I'm hoping I can keep my momentum up and continue on. Any advice you have, any comments, suggestions, always appreciated. And yeah, we'll see where we get. So where I'm at right now with the engine and tranny removal, I've got all of the intakes removed. I've got all of the vacuum lines disconnected wherever needed. I've got the electrical disconnected at the engine. Pretty much everything from the injection control computer, I think that is up there. I've got the oil fill removed. I've got the battery disconnected, obviously, and the heat recirculation fan, and I've got the fuel line disconnected. As you can see, it's dripping there. I have it disconnected at the filter. Oh, it's a little hard to see. It started out dripping really slowly, and then a couple gusts of wind came by, and a bunch of black sludge came out of the line, and this is what the fuel looks like now. All right, I left my flashlight in the garage, but I hope you can see this push rod tube is very, very bent. It's actually creased right here, and this thing is gross and needs to be taken out and given some love. I have the fuel lines disconnected. There's one that goes in on that side of the engine and one right up there. This one actually broke on me, but it's old rubber, needs to be replaced anyway. Some to-do items. I have to disconnect this. I think this is a cooling or heating sleeve, but it's attached to the engine here. It runs all the way to the front of the vehicle. Again, here on this side, a little different of a bracket. I have to disconnect the axles here from the transmission. That'll probably be the next thing I do. Couple electrical lines here and there that need to be either pulled out from the back of the engine like this one, or just disconnected from the starter solenoid there, the yellow line. And the shifter line here for the transmission also needs to go. Other than that, I think it's just the mounting. So the engine mounts 2 there, and then 2 on this side, as well as the transmission mounts or bolts. There is a transmission oil dipstick that runs from the bottom of the oil pan of the tranny all the way up into the engine bay. I think that can stay on. It has one bracket right here that is held in place from the top of the transmission, so I believe that stays. Other than that, I should have enough clearance to drop this engine. Okay, next thing I want to do is remove the CV axles from both sides of the car. And in order to do that, I'm going to disconnect the portion on the tire side. I'm going to somehow roll it over. I thought I had the transmission in neutral, but I'm going to disconnect here. I'm going to lift the axle, that way I have enough clearance to do the top portion, and then I'm going to disconnect it there. Okay, I do have this axle disconnected from the wheel, and I was hoping to lift it up enough to give myself enough clearance to get access to these bolts on the transmission side of the axle. And originally I was using a socket with a 6mm Allen on it, and because it's so short, it makes it very difficult to access these screws unless I get to the very top ones because of the angle of the axle. So instead, I don't have one of those longer sockets, so instead I used a bit, and I'm putting it in a 1/4-inch drive socket, which will hopefully give me enough angle to be able to hit these like so. Here we go. Okay, I apologize for the dirty camera. Oh, very difficult to not bump into things and touch things with your oily gloves, but my original thought was to take the axle off at the transmission side there, and every time I go to undo one of those really stuck bolts, the axle wants to spin on me, and I try to pair of vice grips there up against the suspension arm, and I'm getting a feeling that it wants to spin in place. It wants to essentially strip the Allen out. I just don't feel comfortable with it, so I'm gonna make the call to try to drop the transmission with the axle attached at the transmission side. It is disconnected. You can see the ball is exposed there at the wheel side. Now I just got to do the driver's side rear. Bear with me. This side spins a lot smoother than the other side. Okay, so I've got that axle detached. So is the one on this side. And yeah, there should be enough clearance to drop this tranny down kind of these two axle legs sticking out. Now I've got to work on getting the mounts for these either heat or cold air exchangers. They run all the way up to the front of the cab. Got to get those disconnected as they connect to the ductwork there. Same on this side, a little bit different of a bracket. One thing I can't seem to figure out yet, I still have the throttle connected, throttle cable all the way here. I have the spring disconnected as well as the linkage. I don't know if that's hard to see. The cable comes in through this tin back here and connects up here. And normally, I've seen in other videos, people have been able to detach that pretty easily. And I'm hesitant to take this nut off because I don't want this spring to decoil itself and have to do that later. So if anyone has any suggestions as to how to disconnect this throttle cable here, is it this C-clip back here? To me that doesn't look like it because that just does this spring. It's obviously some sort of linkage there. I can't seem to figure it out. There's no screw at the top. If anyone has any suggestions, let me know in the comments. Okay, so I decided to pivot on the separation of the cooling ducts there on the left and right side, because both of the gas lines decided, even though they were disconnected, they decided to start flowing with fuel and started dripping all over me. So I'm gonna try to work on the linkage for the shifter of the transmission, which is here, and not really sure how to disconnect it. I do see there's a bracket there. I gotta clean this up a little bit and figure out how to get it disconnected. Went ahead and undid the two 17mm cable bracket screws, and I undid this grounding cable over here on the right, same bolt. Turns out you can figure out what the hell is going on when there's not a pound of grease and crap in your way. So all there is a little C-clip on there, yeah, with a small pair of needle nose pliers, real small like this, or pick tool like this. I should be able to get this clip off of there. Honestly, the only thing I'm worried about is losing it in the gravel after it falls, but I'm gonna try to be really careful. Voila. Okay, we are back. Day 2, well, really day 3. I believe I'm at a point where I have everything disconnected except the mounting bolts for the engine and the transmission. I'm on a sloped surface here. Bus will not fit into the garage by a matter of inches, and I could probably take off the camper, but it's pretty tight in there. Today, I will be enlisting the help of my neighbor Chris, who let me borrow his little 2-ton Harbor Freight jack, and we'll use that as well as the 3-ton Harbor Freight jack I have to try to lower this engine and the transmission. The goal is going to be, because it's a slope surface and it's gravel, I want to try to land it on dollies. That way I don't have to deal with any ramping or anything funky. I don't want it to slide on the ground, even though chances are everything on the bottom will be replaced anyway. So right now I'm thinking the game plan is to put one jack on the end of the transmission, put one jack pretty much right underneath the engine, use a couple blocks of wood just to kind of space out the pressure alongside both of those, and hopefully land both the transmission and the engine onto 1 or 2 dollies. Not exactly sure. We'll see how it fits. I was confused yesterday about the throttle linkage there, but that actually is a line that goes right to the same shift linkage on the transmission. So since I'm taking both items down in one piece, I think that I don't have to detach anything. I think it'll all just come together and stay connected throughout the drop. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, day 4. The other day I ran into a couple issues, made a couple of adjustments, and I think it should be coming down today. I think we are held on by two bolts left. They are located at the top of the transmission assembly, and they're difficult to get to, but we should be able to pull them out today. When I tried my method of, 2-jack method with 1 jack here and 1 jack in the front and lowering it down, it would teeter in the middle. And after some more research online and looking under there with a light, I was able to see the 2 bolts that sit at the top of the transmission housing that attach basically to the frame of the car. I saw one video that said that those 2 bolts are into a threaded part of the frame, so I don't think I have to put another wrench up there to hold a nut or anything. So I should, after with some fiddling, maybe like bear hugging the transmission, I should be able to get those 2 bolts out and the middle should drop. The goal is still to do the same method with the 2 jacks. I just don't, it's just me now. Don't have my neighbor Chris. What else? Also removed, we were able to get out the line that goes from the transmission. This is the throttle cable, and this, so there's a line that goes from the gas pedal to the gearbox, and then from the gearbox to the throttle control on the engine. This is what goes there. And the reason you have to take this out is because it actually runs through, even though it's only a connection from the transmission to the engine, it actually runs through almost like a hole in like a unistrut part of a frame of the of the frame of the body. So you do have to take that out. I also removed the transmission oil dipstick tube, and that was very difficult to get off. And when I got that tube off and pulled it out, oil just absolutely exploded everywhere. I got a bucket under there fairly quick, but also really dented up my finger doing that. I should have had gloves on. Might have to remove the starter to get access to those 2 bolts on the top of the transmission. Not sure yet. So yeah, it will be out today, that I can confidently say. Also, we just celebrated New Year's Eve, and after a few drinks, all of the guys decided to get the girls to give them buzz cuts. So if you're wondering about the hair difference, that's the answer. I just want to show what I was struggling with. So I disconnected these bottom 2 bolts. That didn't seem to do anything. Didn't realize that those bolts were at the top of the transmission here, behind there, pointing in the direction. You can't see it from here, but above there are 2 bolts that need to be disconnected from the transmission housing to the frame of the car. I had taken these essentially transmission mount bolts out, thinking that that would free us up. There's one on each side, but to no avail. I may have to remove the starter there to get to those bolts, so not exactly sure how it's going to play out. Okay guys, that was absolute warfare. There's no way that transmission and engine are staying together and going in like that when it comes to installation. So I'm guessing they're going to be split, and the transmission's going to go first and then the engine, because that was as close to impossible as you can get. Did not end up removing the starter, so maybe I made it harder on myself. I was able to get up there with some extensions and some black magic and remove the 2 bolts connecting the transmission to the frame. I believe the only thing supporting this engine and transmission right now are my 2 jacks. So I'm going to set the camera up back here and hopefully slowly lower it down onto some dollies finally. Okay, good news. I was able to lower the engine and the transmission all in one unit. Landed on some dollies. I'm very happy about that. You can finally see through here. Don't appear to have any miscellaneous connections that need to come off. The bad news, I think I have to jack up the bus a little bit more due to the height of the dollies here. They are not budging. They are stuck in the gravel, which means this is gonna open up another can of worms of how the hell do I pull this engine out of here. So I'm gonna take a break for a little bit, think about it, come back. I've also got the small jack still supporting the back of the front of the transmission there. So stay tuned. Okay, I've got the transmission and engine lowered down. It's sitting on a couple pieces of plywood, so it's pretty much on the ground. at the moment, and rightly or wrongly, I pulled the jack out from underneath it, and it's at a point now where I pretty much can't get it back under. So it's sloppy, but nothing's damaged, and I should have enough clearance. I need to figure out a way to basically just pull it on those pieces of plywood, and I'm thinking hooking up a ratchet strap to my truck hitch and connecting it to the engine supports on either side, and just slowly working to pull it straight back. Nothing else is connected. It's a lot heavier than I expected, and just gonna slowly chip away at it. Once I get it clear of the rear bumper there, I'm not exactly sure how I'm gonna get it into the garage, but it may just be a process of sliding it, putting new plywood on, sliding again. It just might be slow. We'll see. Okay, I was able to pull it out little by little with my ratchet strap there attached to my tow hitch. It's heavy as hell, but I was able to deadlift it up and wedge these dollies underneath. At least now I have full access to the thing, and it's elevated completely out of the bus. I just need to figure out, it doesn't slide very well. As you can see, the wheels get caught in the gravel there, so the engine wants to slide on top of the dollies as opposed to the dollies moving on the ground. So I may try to put this plywood underneath the dollies to get it to go. Of course, I got a grade there, so it's probably going to want to go downhill towards this bed of mold. Little by little, we are getting there. Was there a better way? Probably. That was a workout. It's actually starting to snow. I think it's about a little over maybe 35 degrees with wind. I'm sweating. But it's in there. Let me turn on some lights. Ooh, baby. There she is, all accessible, ready to be disassembled. I can get a reading as to how rebuildable this engine is. Again, I saw the bent push rod tube when I was down there. We were getting a little bit of a tick as we were turning the engine over, and we decided not to go any further. Again, took the transmission out because I saw a couple videos saying that it would just be easier to do it that way, all as one piece. And honestly, now that I have that out, I'm gonna open that up and probably put a rebuild kit in it. I don't know what condition it's in. Kept the axles on up here because I wasn't comfortable with some of these bolts. They felt like they were flexing on me a little bit when I had the Allen in there. I didn't want to strip anything, so dropped it with those on, kept the bags on as you saw me struggling with, and yeah, worked out. But man, never ever would I drop an engine on a sloped gravel driveway ever again. First engine I've ever taken out of a vehicle. Overall, if I were to do it again, I'd probably do it 3 times as fast. But, you know, just being meticulous, make sure to take pictures of everything, labeling wires where I could, vent hoses and, vacuum hoses. Yeah, I mean, it's out. It's all part of the process, right? Engine needed to be rebuilt, so it's out. Wow. I was also prying at this cover for the gas tank, trying to get it off, and I saw a YouTube video, a guy saying there are 2 secret bolts underneath this flange here, so I should be able to pop that off today, maybe get the gas tank out. I could see in it from the top, it is rusty and corroded as hell. there's probably a way to refurbish it. I don't know. I'm thinking something like that. It's such a pain to get to again. Let's just replace it for $200, $300, whatever it is. But yeah, I'm super stoked to have this thing out. Really am. We just got a new Harbor Freight engine stand. I don't have an engine crane or an engine lift, so how I get that beast up onto here, I'm not exactly sure yet. Obviously I have to detach it from the transmission first, but yeah, I'm really excited just to have an engine on a stand like that, having all the work right in front of me, not laying on the ground and breaking my neck to try to get at things. I'm thinking what I did the past couple days is probably the dirtiest job of this entire renovation, because it requires like nothing was power washed under there. It was raw, as it's been sitting for the past 15-20 years. So mice nests, flakes of rust, you name it, it's all falling on me, and I'm a dirty boy. So I'm excited to clean this thing up, and hopefully the motivation stays. I'll start doing some research into disassembly of this engine. See what I need to order. Thanks for viewing my struggle. Any comments, suggestions you have with this behemoth, please let me know in the comments. Again, first time working on a VW bus. Yeah, really happy to have that engine and transmission out, because now I can have all the work in front of me with all this space. So till next time.